So as you can see, these are the two products that I'm using today. Oh, the hairdresser came to you. Oh, well done. Okay, these are the two products that I use today mainly, and this was mainly in preparation for Lisa's show on the 9th, which I believe is on Thursday. I'm not sure of the times myself, but I know they're on Facebook, both in Lisa's own page and in our Facebook group, Crafting with Lisa Horton. But amongst some other products and which Lisa is bringing to us, she's bringing lots and lots of new things, which will probably be the main focus of the shows. But to back those up, Lisa's also bringing back the Mandala papers and the BALI and the Capri papers as well. So I thought I'd come up with a project just incorporating those two, because many of you may have bought these already and have these sitting at home, and you might just like some more fresh ideas to know how to use them. So I would encourage you to watch Thursday's show, because there is lots of dies coming back. I know we've all been waiting on dies from Lisa, but the ones that are coming to us and the samples that the design team have made are absolutely fabulous, so you're in for a great show there. But today I thought I'd go ahead and use the Mandala papers. First time I've used these actually, and to be honest, I actually really enjoyed sitting down and taking the time to colour. Now these are absolutely perfect if you want to make a super quick card, because I'll show you, I'll flick through some of these, because you can see they're an 8x8, printed on 8x8 paper on a 250 GSM extra smooth card, which is beautiful paper to work with. But they're really sturdy. Now, no two designs are printed twice, I think that's right, from what I've had a quick flick through. And you can see that basically Lisa's given us so many different designs of mandala here. But she's also given us the larger design, which would probably be the base of any mandala you want to build up, especially if you want to build up into a 3D image. But she's also given us the smaller sections, which we can use to cut into ourselves, and I'll show you that technique with what I've made in a second. So we can actually build these up, so we can colour these in many different ways with any of your pens, your alcohol pens, your coloured crayons, your coloured pencils, watercolour markers even. And then we can build these up and create a lovely 3D image. So we've got so many here. Some of these actually reflect the mandala stamps, which I think this one does, if I recall. So if you did manage to get hold of the stamps and the papers at the same time, or you was wondering sort of, you perhaps got the papers and you might go for the stamps again at a later date, you know, you've got this coordination element here as well. And we have cute little words here as well. So these basically are a complete project in themselves. Now I'm showing you here the mandalas, but the beauty of these packs is that when you flip them over, you've also got a double-sided element, so you have actually a design paper. Now you can use these just purely as colouring pages if that's what you want to do, and there's a lot to be said to sitting down and just taking the time for yourself if you're bored with what's on telly, or if you want to watch something on telly and keep your hands busy at the same time, or you could give these to the kids to colour, or you can make your own coordinating background to go with the mandalas on the front. So these are great. And they are all different actually, each one of these is different. I don't think any one of these designs is repeated. And that goes, this is actually volume 2, this one, but that actually goes the same for volume 1 as well. So we have mindful moments, and they're both called mindful moments. But this gives you a whole different set of patterns in the same format. So these are great. And I wanted to team them up with the original design papers that Lisa brought to us, the BALI pack and the Capri pack. I think these are sold in pairs as the pack of two, which is probably, in my view, probably the best way to sell them, because I couldn't choose between the two designs. The BALI tends to be a little bit more bolder in colour, I would say, but they're stunning colours. I mean, look at these, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely stunning. There's so much in there, so many different designs. Now these are also reversible, so you have more of a, I wouldn't say a solid colour because you still have the graduations of colour, but you have perhaps a more tonal look on the back here, and these would team up with any of the designs that are on the front. So you have those, which are great, and I'll perhaps just show you quickly the capri. So these are slightly softer, perhaps more romantic colours, more pinky peaches, and I think perhaps some of the actual, I won't say designs because they're sort of more of a distressed look, but they are a softer, I would say. So you can see here a much softer colour palette. You have this like the speckled design there, and you have more of a marbled design there, sort of coming through. I mean, every rich colour you could possibly choose. And again, on the back, these are double-sided, so you have quite floaty sort of water-like, sort of space-like sort of designs, I suppose, with the capri. I interchange between the two constantly, so to have both packs is absolutely brilliant. Now, the design with the card that I went for today, I actually used something from the BALI pack of paper, which you can see here in the background. There's so many colours in this, and I wanted to team it up with one of the mandalas that I cut from the mandala paper set there. Can you see that on the screen? Yeah. And basically what I've done, just to choose the colour palette to colour my mandala, I just picked the colours from the design paper here. So it really, all the thinking has been done for you. And also with this project, I just wanted to show that across Lisa's range, there has been sort of thought put into it that every single element of Lisa's range can mix and match with everything else. You buy these as a clear sort of to colour yourself, but if you don't want to think, you've got the papers that give you the colours and the inspiration. Obviously you don't have to team these up together, but it's just a really nice to know that all the thought has sort of been put. Lisa's done all the thinking for you, basically. So if you want something quick, you can really create something nice. And each one of, if you make some of these, each one of these would actually work out quite different, because the mood would take you different on different days. So you'd have different colours. Obviously, all the papers are all different. Now, I wanted to show you here. It looks quite 3D the way I've coloured it, actually. So, but what I wanted to show you, there is actually a lot of layering going on here. I don't know if you can see, there's actually 3 layers. So you've got the base layer, and I've cut into one of the mandala layers, and I've cut out the centre because I wanted to insert the sort of the middle star, as it were, just to give an extra dimension. Now, you didn't have to do that. I mean, you could have not cut out that centre one, and I could have added this star to sit on top, so you'd actually have like a more of a pyramid layout. And you can see there we've got the lovely diamante crystals sitting on top, which are just fabulous. They bling anything up, lovely. So this is an easel card. So for anyone who's tuning in who perhaps gets a little bit stumped or not quite sure how to make the easel card, I will show you how easy they are to make. So I'm going to attempt to go through that from scratch with you. Say there's not a huge amount of techniques like my usual inky sort of lives that I do with you. But sometimes it's good to go back to basics. I don't create shaped cards very often, I have to admit, but if I do one, it's usually an easel design. I think it's just a really, really nice way to display, you know, something like this. So I shall get into this straight away. Now, the way that I work this, I take a regular, usually a square blank, card blank. That's what I usually work on most of the time, because I know that the crease works, and I know that then I'll have envelopes to fit anything in, to fit the design into afterwards. I base this mainly on the size of the mandala that I cut out, so we just measure that, and that's just over the 4 inches, so that will basically be the size of the circle that you need to cut. I use a circle cutter. I've had this for absolute years and years. I know they are still on the market. You may have some in your craft stash. If you don't, then you could draw around something round. I find rolls of tape quite useful, just to draw around, or go and find a plate. It works just as well. Or perhaps even if you have circular dies. What you do need to remember when you're creating a card blank is, firstly, that you're going to be going through 2 different layers, or 2 separate layers, and you want to make sure, and I'll show you this with just this for a second, pretend this was a die. You want to make sure that a part of the circle is actually overlapping the folded crease of your card blank. Obviously that means it will actually keep, it makes it as a, you know, sorry, can't get my words out, it will actually stay as a card blank then. It's not the end of the world if you don't, because there are ways that you'd be able to join them, but it does make that easier if you just remember to overlap the circle edge. Now I'm going to use my circle cutter, and I've already cut one. That's 4.5 inches. Now what I need to do, on my 4.5, there we are. Now obviously I need to line this up, so I need to then make sure that I'm also cutting past the crease of the card, and that it fits onto the card blank. So I'm just going to push that on slightly, excuse my head in the way, just make sure, yeah, there we are. So if you have a circle cutter, it's unlikely that you'll actually be able to get through the 2 layers, but what I do, I actually use the blade just to go around, and I just score the circle there. Hopefully you can see that. I've just scored through the top layer. What I then do, I can just take my scissors, and I can use that as a guide, and I can cut round. And this is where my big scissors do come into play. They're actually quite useful. And if you just take your time, you will get a good enough cut around. I wanted to show you this from scratch because, so for those who haven't done this before, or those who perhaps just need reminding sometimes, because I know I do things sort of in fits and starts. I mean, I'll go through a phase of making easel cards, and then I won't make them for a little while, and then I wonder, I think again, well, how did I do that? So sometimes it's nice to be reminded, isn't it? So there we are. It really doesn't take that long at all. Now, if you've used, let's just tidy that up. If you've used a die, then the chances are that you could probably have cut that neatly through the 2 layers anyway. So we have the card blank. Now I'm going to take my scoring board here, because what I need to do to create this easel effect here, we need to, when we open this up, you see we need to create a crease here, so that creates a nice sort of a pivotal point on your card. So we open the card up, we line it up so we know sort of the width. Let's do that on the other side here, on the other scoreboard. Okay. work. So if I put the crease on the 10 centimetres, this is going to 22. So I need to score about 11 in there. So that's 10. No, I don't. Excuse me. Right, it's 12 because I go from 10 to 22, so that's 12. So I need to score at 6, so that's halfway. So that's 15, that's 16, which is about there. Yeah. So we use that line and we score down there. So we just create a score line. You only need to do the one. And we can fold that in. That's probably a little too short. It doesn't matter. And we score that along. So that's basically, we've created our shape for the easel card there. Now from the design papers, as I say, I've used some of the BALI paper, and I've created cut out a circle in the same way. I use my circle cutter, so whichever methods works for you. And we're just going to, excuse me, we'll just put this onto the bottom. Okay. So we have the base of our card there. I'll just leave that and we can allow that to dry. Now, as I say, I then chose the mandala that I was going to use, and I've already cut this out and I've part coloured it, and I shall talk you through how we build it up. Now I've used the colours from the paper here, and this time actually, I mean here I used alcohol markers, but this time I actually used my distress markers. And managed to match pretty well the colours that were in the paper to the colours, to distress colours here. So they're actually sort of watercolour pens, I suppose, because they do react with the water. And I've coloured these in. This is my base of the mandala. Now, you don't need to colour, unless you really want to, you don't need to colour the whole layer of each sections, particularly if you're going to be building this up, and you'll see why in a second. Now the other thing you'll notice on these mandalas, hopefully, I've actually got a sheen on them. Now when Lisa first brought these out, she noticed that depending on which markers you used, sometimes the ink just smudged a little, especially when you actually got to where the lines were quite tight. So that got me to thinking perhaps I could run this through my foiling machine. I have a foiling machine, you know, the ones that look like a laminator, and I have the foils that go with it. So I've done that on this one, and I actually foiled it in blue. Unfortunately, it worked really well, and it's got a really lovely effect on there. It sort of just really elevates the mandalas. So I've done the same here, and I run it through with a rose gold foil. And that basically just seals the ink, which means that whichever the markers just smudged the black ink a little bit, it meant that the ink was sealed and it worked really well. But it gives them such a lovely and expensive look with this foil on now. Hopefully you can see that. I love it with the rose gold. That's worked really well. Now, when we create the easel card, obviously we need to create another sort of a layer here to actually put our whole mandala onto, and this is, we cut a second circle which is the same size as your card base there, and that will just get attached just onto the second half. So we'll be working from this and putting our mandala on top. So I want to start building, and we'll put the mandala on the base there. Actually, just another point, if you do decide that you want to run this through your foiling machine also, just remember that the reverse side is printed, and that when you put this through, this is a folder that I use, and you can see here the foil. Oh, let's just open that up. You can see the foil there, that the amount that I use. But do remember that because the type of ink it is, I think it's a laser ink. I know my foiler works with a laser ink, but because it's reversed, some of the pattern may actually mark the carrier folder. So just line the folder with a piece of copy paper. That's just I just found that out from trial and error. Now I'm going to cut into these mandalas just so as you can see how these actually build up. So you can see this layer here, I've only cut one section. This is because I actually want to remove the section that I've coloured there is the section that I want to remove from this layer here. So I shall go ahead and do that. So hopefully I can get this done in a reasonable time. I just wanted to show you in real time how this happens. I think sometimes it's just quite interesting to watch, and sometimes it just sort of reinforces what we're trying to say sometimes. I know a lot of people sort of learn visually, and just by watching something it can sort of go in, makes a lot more sense if you watch as opposed to trying to explain it. And sometimes, you know, actions speak louder than words. There we are. You can see how all of a sudden this has started taking on a whole different look. Okay, that's fine. Oh, there we are. Now I'm going to start building this up with my 3D foam. I don't have any larger pads actually, I must get hold of some, so I shall use these smaller ones. You can use 3D glue gel, that would work perfectly too. I haven't got quite enough on there. Bear with me when I take these off. Now, we can start lining this up here, like that. Now we have these lovely two little star shapes which remind me like plaits, really, plaited stars. I'm going to cut into those as well. This one will go on first, I think, which means this will be the one that I need to cut, so I shall put this one on as it is. Now before I do that, I just wanted to show you how even with like watercolour pens or these distress markers, you can actually layer and create some shading with these. Now I'm not the best of colourists, I have to say, but I am sort of, you learn as you go along and you get better as you go along. But I found that even just using one colour, if you lay down one layer of colour to start with and then allow that to dry, if you go back in with the same colour and just layer over, sorry I just picked up the wrong colour there, it doesn't matter, it's the lighter one, we can blend it out. But if you go back in with the same colour and just start layering, you can still get a really graduated look, which gives you that element of shading. So you don't always need to have lots of different shades of one colour of pen. If you just have a little bit of patience, sometimes you just allow one layer to dry. And this is the same principle I use with alcohol markers as well, actually. If you go back in with the same colour, you can create that shading, and that adds a lot more layers of depth. And I think that's just really effective and quite a foolproof way of creating shading as well. Same with the blue. You can go back in, look, you can just create that darker shade. And by the time it's dried, it really blends into the design. So I think that's just a really useful tip, particularly those who may be new to colouring. And that just adds a really lovely lovely depth. Okay, so I'm going to add this one into here. Again, I should put my foam pads on. Bear with me. Now do remember that all of our Facebook lives will end up being saved into our YouTube channel. So anything that you may miss, or if you do, even if you don't manage to catch our lives, which is perfectly fine, particularly my ones that say during the day, and I know a lot of people at work, especially as things start getting back to normal, people are sort of going back into work now. So our YouTube channel is a great place to catch up on all of these, and also just to refresh your memory if you perhaps see a technique that you want to sort of look back on, you'll be able to find it on there. Now this will be the final layer. Now you can see where I've coloured here, and now all I need to do is just sort of snip into this. Now this layer, I'll try not to leave too much of a white border around the outside, because this is the final layer. And because these are so easy to use and so easy to cut, even the fussy cutting of these is actually really quite relaxing. I say Lisa's done a lot of the work for you because she's put all the artwork down, so there's no need to be looking for inks or wondering what colour to stamp it in. All you really do need to do is just sit and colour. So even if you don't want to make it into a card, it will be worth just sitting and colouring a whole batch of these at your own leisure, at your own time, because they'll be there to use on a project at any time. It doesn't even have to be a card, it can be in your scrapbooking, it could be in your mixed media pieces. Actually, the wind's just got up a little bit, I hope you can still hear me. I'll try and do this quick. I'd say I'm conscious this takes up a bit of time, but sometimes it's just really nice to see things created in real time. I know we can do a lot of prep for these things, and we do a lot of prep, and so much work goes into all these lives by all the design team members. And we're all here just to help you out as a group, whether you're new to crafting or whether you're experienced. I mean, it's all about sharing, isn't it? And I know just recently there's been an awful lot of lives, or all our lives are brilliant actually, with all the design team members. You all come up with something so different, but we've all got so excited over the rag books at the moment that Lisa brought to us last time. I don't know if you've got one. I've got one, but I haven't managed to sit down and use it yet, but I know both Dawn and Dawn done a brilliant live, and you can just hear her enthusiasm with the rag book. And I know there was another one too. There we are. Now this has actually worked out to be quite an intricate design like that. Yeah, I quite like that. That's quite different, but it adds a really nice layer onto the top there. So bear with me again. I'll just put a couple of foam pads on. Now I'm probably not putting enough on, and if I were going to use this and send it, I would spend the time and actually probably slot in a couple more foam pads just to make sure that every layer is secure. Line up those areas. You can see it's created a really lovely 3D effect on there. Oh, I'll tell you what I didn't do. I was actually going to put this onto a gold layer first. that's something that I should have done actually, because that would have just perhaps brought out the gold layer of the foiling there on top of that. But it stands out against the black, so that's fine. I'll perhaps have a doodle around the outside of the black there just to take the edge off. Now, when we come to sort of put this onto the easel card, we only glue this onto the bottom half, like so, and we line that up. So the back half of that easel then stands proud of the card. Okay. Now I should take one of these sentiments from that also came from the pad. This was actually a white one which I've also foiled, and I think just to make that blend in with the rest of the design, I think I will just take some ink and just go around the outside. Now these papers take this distress ink really well, but they work really well with your actual distress pads and distress oxides. I mean, that's another way to actually colour these mandalas, and I think I've actually shown you that before in a previous live. I've actually taken an ink pad and actually coloured the mandala quite roughly but effectively with distress ink as well. Now I'm going to take a strip of foam pads this time because we've got a longer sentiment, and we should just pop that in the centre there, and that acts as an anchor just to make sure our card stays up and stays proud. Now this is just calling out for a gem to go in the centre, I think. So these are Lisa's gorgeous flat back gems. They're like a diamante. They've got lovely facets on there. I don't think this one needs as many as the previous card that I done, so I think I'll just pop one into the centre there. Put a lot of glue on. That glue will dry clear, so you won't see that in the end. There we are. So when you stand it up, you have the coordination of the BALI paper at the bottom there with the mandala sitting at the top. Now these are really hard actually to show you on camera, and they're actually really hard to photograph as well to get the best out of them. But when you do actually give them and they sitting on somebody's mantelpiece, they do look lovely, because it's something that you really sort of need to pick up and have a good look at. But I think it just shows a really nice way to use, say, two of Lisa's products that you may have sitting there. And these will be making an appearance, well, not these cards, but these products will be making an appearance on Lisa's show on Thursday.